All right, hi, I'm Bucky, W0SUN, Bill Buckwalter, but you can just call me Bucky, everybody does. And let me just find out who I've got in the room here. Who does digital? Any kind of digital? Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, okay. Who doesn't do digital?
Who wants to?
Who wants to? Nice. Who doesn't want to? All right, good. All right. So, who does fusion? Like C4FM fusion. Who does DMR? Oh yeah, DMR. All right. Who does D-Star? Oh, nobody. Oh, wow. All right. Okay, so you can check out my QRZ page. I would recommend you do. I do a weekly presentation every Wednesday night on SKYHUBLINK. Anybody listen to SKYHUBLINK once in a while? Okay, they've got all kinds of stuff, but every Wednesday night, my friend Doug and I, K0DC, we've been doing a digital learning net for quite some time. And it's getting, we have people from Australia and Canada that are regular that check in every week. So check it out if you want to. We have really good discussions. So, I'm getting a good phone call here. Let me
say again where that is, just for the novice here.
Go to skyhublink.com and look at the frequencies. We have a analog FM frequency in Colorado Springs. I don't know what it is, but you can go to skyhublink.com and find out. We also have a fusion repeater as well. We need to get a DMR Brandmeister repeater in here, and that would be great.
You can get it on EchoStar.
Okay. They used to have Rocky Mountain Ham Brandmeister, but they discontinued Brandmeister. All right, so let me just talk about some quick introduction to digital. I've been asked, like, some people say, I don't want to do digital. That's not really ham radio. I mean, you're going over the internet and, you know, but it is ham radio. Let me tell you what we're doing with it. On SkyHubLink, we've got a separate network that's Colorado weather, Colorado severe weather. And we've got a DMR talk group 31083 that's been around forever. That talk group, we're tying in with the engineers at SkyHubLink. I'm one of them. And we have got that tied in with FM analog, D-Star and DMR, and analog. So we actually, it's all menu driven. SkyHublink's got repeaters all over Colorado, then some, but especially the ones in Colorado. So really quick, if you don't think digital is for ham radio, we can take that system. It's menu driven. If there's a tornado outbreak in Lyman, Colorado, or Eastern Colorado, we can take that region by menu, take them off of SkyHublink, put them in Colorado severe weather, and focus on that side so Grand Junction doesn't have to hear that. They do have the choice to join that if they want. Anybody can join that by using your DMR talk groups and joining that network. I just gave a presentation last week to Arapahoe County and Adams County Aries about potentially using this network. But that's groups of FM analog repeaters, not digital, FM connected with All-Star, that we can just one menu move a whole region into that talk group. That's the power of digital radio. Pretty cool. So it is for ham radio. All right. Okay, let's see. You can see, oh, good. So let me just tell you, there's a lot of fusion confusion and digital confusion out there. I'm going to help you. I'm going to jump between two presentations. So don't mind if I scroll by a couple of pages, but basically I have three different, I'm going to talk about WØSUN, Fusion, D-Star from ICOM, and DMR Technologies. WØSUN has three networks, just like DMR. So DMR's got the famous one, Brandmeister, but they've also got DMR Plus, Moto Turbo, DMR Mark. Rocky Mountain Ham designed their own DMR network. They're doing a lot of technology. You can actually set up if your radio, like an Anytone or a Motorola, supports roaming, you can actually set up your radio to find the repeater as you roam around Colorado. Rocky Mountain Ham's got some really cool advanced stuff. Now, they're a self-contained network using DMR radio. And they just got a grant, and they got the best Motorola repeaters, and they're really doing it right. And then you got Brandmeister. Brandmeister is the popular one around the world. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then that's DMR. Fusion has basically three networks. You can do a private one as well. They've got, with a hotspot, they've got YSF, they got FCS, and then separate, they got Yaesu, WiresX. There's three fusion networks, and I'll explain that. So let me talk about C4FM really quick. So like I said, Yaesu has WiresX. They also have IMRS, and that's to set up a private network, linking in repeaters that's not necessarily using WiresX. So you take a Yaesu repeater, they have a LAN card connected to it, and you connect your repeaters over the internet to go from repeater to repeater to repeater, not using WiresX. WiresX is like the really popular one, but you can do an enterprise one with just IMRS. That would be really useful for amateur radio emergency services that they don't want to have the public stuff, but they want to be able to link groups of repeaters together. So WiresX is the most popular one. And think about that. When you have a fusion, it's all Yaesu. So let me go to this screen here. So think about this. I got a Yaesu fusion repeater or radio here. It's running FM. The common denominator of radios is FM. Every digital radio should have FM. And I think you should have your number one frequency is the calling frequency 146.52, right?
Right.
Yeah, we tried to go car to car, but we couldn't find 146.52. So program your. So I was trying to go to 146.52. We're going to fix that and program that as number one. Number one frequency should be FM 146.52. No matter what digital radio you have, that's got to be your number one. So that's FM. That's the bottom layer here. So the bottom layer of my radio is FM, but it also does C4FM. C4FM is digital. It's not Yaesu, nevertheless. I mean, other radios do C4FM as well, not just Yaesu radios. P25 phase one radios at the beginning of 2002, 2003 actually did C4FM, and Yaesu took that technology and applied it to fusion. They just took C4FM and branded it as fusion. So a lot of people use this interchangeably, but C4FM, when you're talking about Yaesu, yeah, that's fusion. But when you're talking about non-Yaesu products like this open spot hotspot, that's not really fusion, folks. That's C4FM. A lot of people, and that's okay. They can use them interchangeably, but technically, this is fusion. This is C4FM. This is also C4FM. Anybody have a question on that? So the bottom layer here, as I'm looking at the bottom two blocks, C4FM and FM. Take it up a layer, and you got Fusion, which is the brand name for WØSUN radios. Anybody know why they call it fusion? Anybody? Nobody wants to take a guess?
They forgot the con in front of it.
That's a good answer. That's a really good answer. Okay. Fusion, they have this thing called automatic mode select, AMS. Let me talk about AMS. So my wife and my son are both ham radio operators. My wife has an FM radio in her car, but my son and I have digital C4FM fusion. So when we're together, we have used a frequency 146.58. Sorry, Steve, the mountain goat guy. That is well, you do mostly HF, but they're starting to use 146.58 on the mountain, but I was using it long before that. So my family uses 146.58. So my son and I, and we're going to have to move the frequency over. Now Soda does it and everything. I don't want to interrupt them. So, but let's just say we use 146.58. So my wife and I, on the same memory channel number 2, I have programmed one frequency, and I programmed it to use automatic mode select. So when I'm talking to my wife, we're going FM. But when my son is away, he can use the same memory channel number 2, and we can just automatically start using digital. So if my radio hears a digital signal, it switches to digital. If my wife keys up, it switches to FM. That's automatic mode select. That's why they call it fusion. That's one of the reasons, because it's fusing the best of both worlds. So a repeater also. I have a repeater in Parker, just south of 470 in Parker. It's the Parker Fusion repeater. I've set it up to be AMS. So if you hit it with a FM signal and a PL tone of 1, 2, 3, it's FM. So people can use it on FM and it doesn't go over the internet. If you hit it with a digital signal, boom, it's digital and it can go over the internet. So that's AMS, that's fusion, folks. All right. Wires X. Oh, Wires X. Wires X. And I have to sit down sometimes. I got limitations on my left side. But okay, Wires X. Wires X. Think of it as an application inside your radio. So Wires X is like firmware. It's like a little application. So I'm on the radio and I'm on the repeater and I want to disconnect it from the Parker Radio Association and take it over to SKYHUBLINK or AmericaLink or Japan or UK. So what I do, I'm talking on the Parker, room or channel or whatever, and I want to take it over to UK. So I hit the Wires X button, and then I punch in some things, and I disconnect it from Parker, and I can easily connect it to UK. That's Wires X. All right, that's one form of Wires X. All right, anybody have questions? Yeah.
Is that as an analogy on DMR to switch to a different talk group?
Yeah, I'll cover that too. And let me know the time. Yeah, I'm just going to go. Okay, let's talk about this signal or this. Oh, yeah, you can see it. Okay, all right. So let's talk about just a little bit of technical here. What's the bandwidth of an FM signal? Anybody know?
12.5.
12.5 FM.
Oh, 25.
25. It's wide. All right. Fusion is 12.5. So it doesn't use as much space. So you can fit more repeaters. It's kind of like TV. Okay. DMR uses 12.5. G-Star uses 6.25. Maybe that's why some people say the audio is better because it uses a little bit more bandwidth. D-Star radios use 6.25. And you'll see this, the things in C4FM. Okay, let's talk about TDMA. DMR uses TDMA, time division multiple access or something like that. What that does, it's really cool. This is a big advantage of DMR. You can have two conversations in the same 12.5 bandwidth. That's why they have time slot 1 and time slot 2. So repeaters, you have to program your software to use time slot 1 or time slot 2. The cool thing is you can have two conversations separate, kind of like a duplex house. You got one on this side and one on this side, and they're using the same house, but they're duplex. So, I mean, it's a duplex house. So it's great. Somebody can be on time slot 1 listening to worldwide talk group 91, but I can still use time slot 2 and use the local repeater, and it doesn't even interfere with each other. But with anytone radios, you can use a thing called promiscuous mode. Sounds kind of fishy. Promiscuous mode lets you listen to both time slots at the same time. So it's called Digimani. You can use it to listen to one talk group. So DMR is kind of neat because you can filter out your radio to only listen to one talk group. So if you're only interested in listening to one talk group, that's all you're going to hear. It's like a filter. I just want to listen to talk group 31083, which is Colorado severe weather. So when somebody transmits on Colorado severe weather, that's all I'm going to hear. Or I can set it to promiscuous digi-wide to listen to everything on time slot 2. So if somebody keys up another talk group, I'm going to hear everything on time slot 2. Or you can set it up to wide and listen to everything on time slot 1 and time slot 2. So now you're hearing all the communication on the repeater. Now that's a ham radio thing. In the commercial world, that's not the way it works. I used to work in Jefferson County Public Health. I come from an IT background, and we would program our radios not in promiscuous mode because we don't want our users to hear all the traffic. So they would hear time slot 1 or time slot 2. So, but hams, we like our radios we want to hear everything. So we have that button on the anytone. The cheap ones don't have that, by the way. So you can't hear all the traffic. You only can hear one talk group at a time. So when you're on your radio on a cheap TYT MD380 and you see the light flicker, that means somebody's using that time slot, and you got to turn your radio to hear that talk group. Anybody have any questions on that? So that's an advantage of DMR over the other two other twos. Yeah.
When you say you can hear all of them, that you're not at the same time. You're listening. If you're listening to one, it's not listening to the other ones.
Yeah.
And
so
then when they stop, then another one would get picked up.
So this is how it works. Usually you have Colorado has a general rule of thumb to put all the talk groups on time slot 1 and reserve time slot 2 for a local talk group. So the club can always use time slot 2. That's how Denver Radio Club uses it. That's how Parker Radio Club uses it. Most of the time, we dump all the traffic on time slot 1. So we have static talk groups and dynamic talk groups. A static talk group is one that's preset. So you're always going to hear that traffic. Somebody comes along and puts in, they want to listen to another talk group. Let's say they're on a Parker radio repeater that doesn't have SKYHUBLINK traffic on there, but they want to get on SKYHUBLINK using the Parker repeater. Which time slot are you going to use? You're going to use 1. 2 is reserved for local. When you program your repeaters in Colorado, when you program your radios, that's, people, when you first get DMR, you're like, oh, it's so confusing. Time slot 1, which one should I use? Time slot 2. Rule of thumb, time slot 1, except for the local club, time slot 2. General rule of thumb. It's not always that way, but in Colorado, they use that. Like, so let's say I want to use a Parker repeater and I'm listening and it's always got time slot static talk group of 310759. That's what Parker does. It's called Colorado Mega. We use that talk group to link in all of our DMR fusion, all the traffic. We've got a transcoder out there, so it transcodes all of our repeaters. We have a mix of Parker Radio has a D-Star repeater up on Squaw Peak. They have a DMR repeater out by American Furniture Warehouse by the airport. And they have a fusion repeater north of Parker. And we're going to put another DMR repeater up at Squaw this summer. So we don't want to worry about which radio you have. Parker Radio was a big, at the beginning of the, when they first organized, it was a big D-Star club. And then when I came in, I really pushed fusion, so we went fusion. Of course, they want DMR as well. So we put all 3 repeaters, and then they want to, that's kind of sad that they kind of talk to each other. And I said, hold my beer, hang on a second. Okay, we got a multi-reflector hub. Yeah, so we got them all hooked in using transcoding. So D-Star guys can talk to the fusion guys, can talk to the DMR guys. That's called transcoding. And that's kind of a cool thing. I'll talk about that in a minute. So any questions, other questions? I'm going pretty quick over digital. Anybody confused yet? All right.
I got that.
So you're using transcoders, means they use different codecs.
Yes, they use different codecs. Now, the different codecs are the modulation, GMSK, 4FSK, CO4FM. Now, here's the thing. How do I see Bill's screen? Anybody got an answer?
Should be right there.
It should be right there. You should be able to see it. Okay. So, vocoder. This is big. This is huge. Ambi. Ambi, what's Ambi?
Proprietary.
This is an Ambi chip right here. So to do a vocoder, we set up a Linux box. We set up a reflector hub software that we download for free. And we stick a couple of these chips, these USB thumb drives in. And so every time somebody talks, it goes through this little chip and transcodes. That's how we build it.
Is that open source or?
Yeah, it costs $100 per chip.
So it's a proprietary vocoder chip.
It's proprietary from the company that makes the Ambi chips. And I forget the company, it's like DVI something. But you can look it up if you just look up Ambi. That's how we build a transcoder. But this is really important. DMR Infusion uses Ambi plus 2 chip. D-Star uses an Ambi plus. But they use different modulation methods. It really sucks. It makes it so you can't talk to Fusion, can't talk to DMR. But they're so close with that chip. They're so close. The cool thing is, when you vocode it or transcode it, DMR to Fusion sounds really cool. Not bad at all. My club comes from a D-Star background. Okay? So they got, hey man, what's going on? Oh, thank you. All right.
Well, I was trying to get. I got it.
Okay, do I have to?
I need to switch.
Can I present again?
Yeah, hold on. small one. I got technical.
Okay, cool. We're back. We're back. I think we're back. Everybody see my screen? If you can't see my screen, chat. Okay, so from the very beginning, the Japanese created digital radio. From the very, very beginning, the commercial world created the P25 radios. All the cops and public health and all the organizations were starting to use that P25. And at the very beginning, they used C4FM, P25 phase 1. This is like 2001, 2002. Well, the Japanese actually created it first. And the P25 guys said, hey, company that makes that ambi chip, we want to use it too. So the ambi chip, why can't you just do like a sound card? Why can't you just do an MP3? MP3, it's true. You squeeze the audio this much, but if you send it out over the air, it doesn't fit the bandwidth. So we have to take an ambi chip and squeeze tighter. And then we have to encrypt it. So you squeeze that up and you send it out. So each radio has those chips in the radio. So D-Star, they got the Ambi Plus chip. It's a closed chip. When the commercial world wanted to go P25, they said, look, company that makes the Ambi chip, we need it a little bit more open. We don't like the closed ICOM slant. We need it a little bit more open. Can you open it so we can see some of the code, or at least, because we want to tap into it. We want to code into it. We have our coders. They want to use the APIs, application program interface, into the software that uses the chip, right? So the company said, yeah, the next generation was Ambi 2. So the DMR world, P25 phase 2 came along. They switched from C4FM and went to this. They went from that to this. So they went to the DMR side. So P25 does a different modulation, but the same multiplex method. And so P25 radios have time slot 1 and time slot 2. They don't do C4FM anymore. So you're going to hear some people say, oh yeah, those P25, they use C4FM. Well, that's history. That's phase 1. Phase 2, it's more like DMR. So I'm taking a long time, but is this interesting?
Yeah.
Okay. So D-Star. So we're trying to get D-Star to go to Ambi 2, but they don't want it. They like their close. They want their chip to be the same. So ICOM. So my guys in the PRA club, don't tell them I said this, by the way. Oh, you're in the PRA. Okay. So they get on the D-Star repeater and they go, oh man, it's like, that sounds terrible. Fusion is terrible. DMR is terrible. ICOM is the best. The DMR guys are going, oh man, the D-Star, it's not coming across. It's like you're hearing a lot of choppiness and everything. Transcoding is just like that. I can't make it any better, folks. I mean, I'm a pretty good engineer, but I can't fix the chip. So they're like, Bucky, fix it. Sorry, I can't do it. So anyway, so that's that. I always think that's an interesting history. Let's just look at comparison. So we're talking about repeater allocation guys up in Colorado, the people that allocate the frequencies, they allocate them. FM is 25 kilohertz, 25 kilohertz, 25 kilohertz. You have to have that much bandwidth, even though typically it only uses 16. Sorry about the, I can't get, it's kind of fuzzy. 16 kilohertz, FM. Guys on screen, I'm pointing to everything. So you're just gonna have to imagine what I'm pointing to. Sideband, AM is using 6 kilohertz bandwidth. That's HF though. And sideband uses the 2.7. But you go from 16 to DMR 6.25, and you save a lot of bandwidth on digital. So that's a little bit understandable. So Fusion has something called voice wide. Have you ever heard of that? VW. If you have a Fusion, anybody have a Fusion? Anybody have a mobile Fusion radio? Wires X. Okay. You can go digital narrow or voice wide. So if you're digital narrow, you got digital voice and data error correction. Okay, so it uses digital voice actually uses a little bit more than half of 6.25, but it does data and error correction. So data and error correction, your signal is going to go longer for longer miles. If you have digital narrow, it's going to last longer on the repeater. So if you're using a repeater, Fusion repeater, if you're using voice wide, your signal is not going to go as long because you don't have the data error correction. You do have a really nice sounding voice. Okay. You can't do wires X and VW voice wide. So on Yaesu Fusion digital radios, you toggle between FM, digital narrow, and voice wide. Just hit the toggle button. That's the difference. So there you go. So I just always use digital narrow. I can't tell the difference, honestly. So I use digital narrow. Okay, I'm going to switch. So I'm going to stop sharing or new share. I want a new share. Oh, no, I can do the same. Oh, never mind. I don't want to.
You should just be able to bring up your other window.
Compare, are you looking for the compare? There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So this is D-Star. Oh, my gosh. This is the packet structure. It's just showing you that this is really technical. D-Star has, DMR uses 2. So the yellow and the blue are 2 different time slots going the same bandwidth. This shows you, it's kind of a boring slide. I'm going to continue. So I want to talk about something else. Okay, reflector. All right. So how much time do we have till?
You're okay.
Okay. So you hear the term rooms versus talk groups versus reflectors. Basically, D-Star calls them reflectors, DMR calls them talk groups, and Wires X calls them rooms. It's kind of the same thing. I mean, so if you have a DMR radio, I'm going to go to this talk group. If you have a Fusion Wires X radio, I'm going to go to this room. And if you have a D-Star radio, I'm going to go to this reflector. So it's just the terminology and the different radios. That's basically it. There are many different reflector systems. In D-Star, you have the REF, XRF, DCS, XLX. What's the difference? At the very beginning of the D-Star days, you had REF reflectors. You needed to register a D-Star ID. And to this day, you still need to register a D-Star ID to get on the REF reflectors. Those are the very beginning technology. XRF, they went with the new reflectors called XRF, but you still need to register a D-Star ID. So if you have a D-Star radio and you want to use REF, you got to register XRF. You got to register DCS. Was some guys in Germany that created a DCS network that gave you a new protocol. So they updated the firmware in the D-Star radios. So you use a D-Star DCS protocol. Don't worry about this. You don't have to memorize it. XLX is the new world. Yay. XLX is like, open source. You don't have to register a D-Star ID. So if you just want to use XLX reflectors, it's open source. The code is out there on GitHub. GitHub is a big website that you download a lot of cool things. You can download the XLX software for free, install them on a Linux server, and put it on the internet. And a lot of people put them in the cloud. And D-Star repeaters can reflect and get it on the reflector. But get this, it's open source. They found a way to tie in WØSUN and DMR. You guys should be just like. So, and then you got the three different networks on Wires X. You got YSX, YSF, FCS. Okay, so if I have a fusion radio and I get a, have you heard the term hotspots? Do you know what a hotspot is? Okay. Anyway, what kind of hotspots do you guys have?
Pi-Star.
Pi-Star?
Open spot.
Open spot.
Open spot? You got an open? I love open spot. Oh yeah, these things are great. This guy has a battery, and it's the only hotspot I can take. So these hotspots are so cool. They actually have a chip in, an ambi chip. Not only do you have an ambi chip in the radio, you got an ambi chip in your hotspot. So the Pi-Star lets you do fusion to DMR, and they let you do DMR to fusion. You can go DMR to DMR, fusion to fusion. You can use a D-Star, but you can't mix D-Star. Sorry, folks. Why is that? Stupid ambi.
Ambi plus.
Yeah, stupid, you know? I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, get with the program, D-Star. Anyway. So Pi-Star is great, but these guys, they can do fusion to D-Star, D-Star to fusion, DMR. I mean, why can they do that? What do you think? They got two chips. They got two little ambi chips in here. That's pretty cool. So they actually really quick, they decode it, encode it, decode it, encode it, decode it, and send it on, it's on its way. So it's really cool. So, and these have a battery in it. So I can use my phone and turn my phone into a Wi-Fi in one pocket, put this in the other pocket, and I'm talking on the radio. And I'm like, maybe I should put it in my back pocket. Oh, you got that. All right.
What's that hotspot? Oh,
Open spot.
yeah. Open spot?
Yeah, it's an open spot. It's RF. It's RF Shark or Shark RF. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I think it's Shark RF.
Yeah, RF open spot, but it's expensive. You're paying for it. But get this: if you're going to get into digital, folks, FT70 WØSUN radio, great introduction to fusion. If you want to save some money to get into digital, buy this WØSUN radio. I mean, you can get a DMR, but buy a WØSUN. It's so much easier right out of the box. And buy an expensive open spot. It's like having 3 radios in one. You can use this fusion radio with this and talk on DMR, fusion, D-Star. You don't need all those radios. You can do it with one radio.
How complex is that code plug?
I never use software. I do it all by hand. I'm so old school. I've been a ham radio since 1978. I don't need a stinking software for this. I don't need, forget the software. I want to do it by hand. People think I'm crazy. I got 500 frequencies in here. If I lose it, actually, I have a clone cable, so I clone it from radio to radio. So if I lose one, I got the other. So, okay.
What was that model?
This is an open spot 3, but you can't buy them because they just announced the open spot 4. Pretty soon they're going to release the open spot 4, and you can buy those. If you want to get a used one, get an open spot 2. The difference of open spot 2, it doesn't do D-Star. Yeah.
What was the HT, the radio? What was
Oh,
FT7.
Yaesu FT70. They got a repeater, a fusion repeater in Colorado Springs. And my friend James, who was here earlier, and he's home, he's actually on the presentation. I helped him put a WiresX neighborhood node. So there's a frequency, if you want to use it, 145.560 simplex fusion frequency. You're welcome to use it. I helped him put that. He's up on the hill on Monument. It gets up pretty good. So if you want to write that down, if you have the fusion radio, go ahead and use it. 145.560. All right. Let's see. Okay, that's it. Okay, so let me do a new share. Let me show you a couple of things. How do I share this? So you should be seeing, yeah, you can see my browser. Good deal. Oh, how do I get this? Oh, well. So let's just go. Let me show you an XLX. Oh, man, I can't see. Hold on, let me get this down here. This is an XLX reflector. This is kind of cool. Let me get rid of that. So this is an XLX reflector. This is the, if you want to know what the software looks like, this is a dashboard. And we can, all these hotspots, these are D-Star and whatever hotspots on module D and module C. We got a couple more. We have a WiresX room connected to this. So in module D, we are connecting WiresX, YSF. So think of WiresX as the closed WiresX system. That's the official DMR, the official WiresX repeater from Yaesu. Think of YSF as hotspot, and they're not the same. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. And think of Brandmeister, BM. Brandmeister is DMR, and it's called the Colorado Mega System. So you can connect here. So let's just say, if you want to go to, let's just say you want to program a repeater. And let's say if I want to look up, I want to program a code plug. And DMR, you've got to use software. You're crazy if you can't do DMR by hand. That's why I don't look. I mean, I like DMR. I have 2 DMR radios, but you got to use software because it's so complex. So basically, you download all the talk groups and you download DMR IDs. You have to register your DMR, your call sign for a DMR ID in order to use it. Why do you have to have a DMR ID and a call sign for DMR? Anybody know?
That question.
With in Motorola, it was commercial radio, and they didn't have call signs.
Right, commercial had DMR IDs and not call signs. So in order to use that technology and the same firmware and the same software, they have to use DMR ID. So if you want to use DMR, you have to go register your call sign, have a DMR.
Their coding system is digital. It doesn't allow for alphabetics.
There you go. I didn't, yeah. Oh.
Good throw. Just throw a few hats in there.
That's the simple reason. It gets a little more complicated than that, basically. And when you look at the top root numbers, they decode in base 10. It's all actually all in binary in the system.
I did not know that. That's why you got a hat. That's awesome. So yeah, that's awesome. So that's why you have to have a DMR ID. D-Star, you have to register if you want to use those old REF reflectors. Yaesu, you don't have to register your call sign. Every Yaesu radio has an ID in the radio, and it's all designed for ham radio. The only thing you have to register is if you want to put your wires X node together. And I'll show you that here. How am I doing on time?
Quarter to 3.
It's
That clock's wrong.
No, not that one.
Oh, man, I'm looking at that clock.
No,
No,
no.
that clock.
So do I have till,
Yeah, 45 till midnight.
don't say that because I can talk forever, man.
15, 20 minutes.
So I want to go. So if I want to, I'm mixing DMR and I'm mixing all the time. Let me see if I want to. So I want to look up. So I go to the brandmeister.network. This is a really good. So I'm going to go to Brandmeister. I want to know how to design my software to get to a repeater. Okay. So I have a repeater on Brandmeister. It's DMR. It's not on those other systems. It's not Rocky Mountain Ham. It's Brandmeister. That's the most popular one. So I'm going to Brandmeister and I'm going to put the K0PRA call sign. Hey, I got a hit. I got a hit. We have a repeater. So I want to program my software for this repeater. This is the place to get the information. So you hear all these terms, you hear this. Everybody says it's so hard to understand. It's really hard to understand. It's really not. This is the repeater right here. Okay, so this is the last people who have keyed up. So John's been busy in 4SJW. Oh, I 42 hours ago. So that's actually people that keyed up the repeater. But I can get, it's a Motorola DMR repeater. So I'm looking at everything here. Now look on the left side. Look on the left side. Look at the frequency. It's 445.075. Check, write that down. 445.075 with an offset 440, that's 5 minus 5 kilohertz. It's got a color code of 1. Write that down, color code of 1. It's got time slot 1 and time slot 2. It's got 2 static talk groups. Time slot 1 is 310759. And time slot 2 is 310844. Those are 2 Parker Radio Association, and I'm from Parker, so you have to excuse me. But so those are 2 talk groups that we use. But it doesn't mean that's the only one you want to use. So Norm, how do you use this repeater? If I want to go to a different talk group, let's say I want to go to Utah.
Dynamic.
It's a dynamic talk group. So just because I have a static talk group on there doesn't mean I have to use that. So if I want to use it, I program my DMR repeater. This is an Anytone. This is a really good. I got 2 of these. So you program each channel per talk group. So channel 1 is talk group 310759. Channel 2 is 310844. Channel 3 is 31083, Colorado severe weather. Okay, so if I want to use Colorado severe weather, how do I do it? It's not on here. Which time slot do I use? 1. And which color code? 1. Okay, so I program my radio for channel 3 to use Colorado severe weather, which is 31083. So I key it up to the repeater. I just key up channel 3, and it puts it on. So, for example, I'm going to key it up. I think no, I can't key it up. Sorry, I can't do it from here. I actually have software on my phone to emulate a radio. So yeah, when I key up, it puts an additional static talk group on there. And it does it for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, it'll time out unless you key up again. Every time you key up, the clocks resets.
So if you're talking if you key up on Colorado severe weather dynamically, and then you transmit, you're quiet again, will the static still get the static one come through? It won't be active until the
For 15
dynamic
minutes.
one expires.
Right. Right.
So when you key up to the weather group, you're going to prevent someone from using time slot 1
On that repeater.
on that repeater.
That doesn't
for
mean you can't use that time slot.
Right,
Yeah.
but they aren't going to be able to use it the same time you are, because you have time slot 1 occupied
Unless they key up.
when you're after the timeout.
No, before the timeout.
That's what I meant. So
If you-
somebody else could key up.
Yes, and then
use
you
the
could switch it.
static,
Yes.
and then they take it.
Yes. So you have to duke it out.
Okay.
You know, you have to call them up and say, hey, stop keying up. You know, no, it's just an honor system.
What
Yeah.
indication do you have that that's happened?
Put your radio on wide promiscuous mode and you can hear both. So traditionally, radios didn't have promiscuous mode. Remember, they only had time slot 1, time slot 2. We added that into the anytone. Your hat is back. So if you want to use, if you want to do 31083, it's kind of nice to have it a wide so you can hear all the traffic. Then you know, oh, somebody else is using it. But if they don't key up for 15 minutes, it goes back, it gets rid of this dynamic talk group and just has that static. So if I want to talk to Grand Junction has a talk group of 31086. Okay, so I key up channel 4, Grand Junction, Western Slope. So all the repeaters on the Western Slope, there's a few, especially Grand Junction. If I want to talk to Grand Junction, I just key up 31086 and I'm talking to Grand Junction. Plus I can hear what they say. And it times out in 15 minutes if I don't key up again. So that's how DMR works.
Keep in mind that a lot of our frustration as amateur radio operators with DMR is that DMR was very explicitly developed for commercial radio use and not at all for amateur radio use. And we sort of grabbed it because it's an open source digital mode.
Right. So
It's not really well suited for amateur use.
it's not. It's complicated because what's a color code? It's a PL tone for digital, for DMR. So you have to go and find out from here or the club website or call somebody, what's your color code? What's your PL tone? It's the same thing as FM. You just have to know the PL tone. So what's the color code? A lot of people just use color code 1, but some people use color code 5 or 7 or whatever. So if you don't know the color code, you can't transmit, or you can transmit, but you're not going to be heard. If you wanted, so if on DMR, if you want to go simplex to simplex DMR wise, I have 2 DMR radios. Talk group 9 is local. So if you just want to use the local repeater and you don't want to have it to go over the internet, 9 does not go out over the internet. If you key up with a 9, it doesn't get transmitted over the internet. So you can use repeaters. So if you just want to talk repeater to, 2 guys using a repeater, put number 9 in your code plug, in your software. They call them code plugs. Where did code plug came from? It came from the DMR commercial world.
Motorola.
Yeah, Motorola. And it's seeped over to ham radio speak. And I'm really having a hard time with this. They say, oh, what's your code plug? Do you have a code plug for Yaesu? I'm like, I just feel like I want to slap him because, but I have to get used to that. That's the new terminology for software, whatever. It's really sad. I want to use my soapbox that ham radio operators have to have software. They're getting handicapped. I mean, I really feel like if you don't know how to program from the face of your radio, that's a really sad story. I can't tell you how much I've been in a exercise, either a bike ride or whatever, and we're using a frequency and they bring a radio and they, what's the repeater? Oh, we got a portable repeater. It's this. I don't have my computer. Sorry. Jeez. I mean, that's really sad in my opinion. So, okay. How am I doing? How many minutes left?
Maybe think about wrap and then questions.
Okay, so really quick, go to pistar.uk. If you have a hotspot or use DMR, go to pistar.uk. Even though you don't have a Pistar, if you don't have one, it's so useful.
It shifted off UK to local.
Yeah, whoops, sorry. Pistar, there you go. Yeah, Pistar. Okay, so pistar.uk. You have all these on the index. You've got DMR mode, YSF mode. Remember, this is not Wires X. You'll have to have me come back and do a Wires X demonstration. I mean, I'll just spoke if you want. I mean, I didn't get to it tonight. So I'm going to go to DMR. And I'm going to go, so talk group list. I'm going to go to TG list. Do I have TGs up there? Oh, come on, man. TGs. Yeah, okay, TGs. Okay, talk groups. This is where you get the list. This gets updated every hour. This is where you get the latest talk groups. Now, not every talk group is on here. Talk group is just a virtual number assigned to something that's recorded in the database. So when you have every user has a DMR ID, you can actually use that almost like a talk group if you want. So, you have a personal mode so when you program your software, you have a personal DMR ID, or you have a group ID. So if I use my personal ID and put group, I'm inviting everybody to use it. It's almost like my own talk group. It's just virtual. It's my personal talk group, okay? If I do mark P in the software, it's just personal. So, yeah, you have your own talk group if you want. So let's say I want to go to Colorado. What is the Colorado? I do a Control F and bring up my search window. Control F on any website gives you a find. And I put in Colorado, not Columbia. Oh, come on. Colorado. Why isn't it going to Colorado? Oh, maybe I have to enter it, right?
It's an abbreviated list.
I do this all the time. COLO. Yeah, COLO, COLOR.
No, it's not. It's an abbreviated list.
Well, oh yeah, okay. So, that's a DMR plus. I'm in the wrong, guys. I'm in the wrong one. I got to go to Brandmeister. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm on Brandmeister.
There you go.
By the way, they're not all the same. But so if I go to Colorado, there's Colorado. 3108 is the Colorado. Most of the Colorado talk groups are 3108 something something. USA is 3100. There's an organization at DMR. That's another thing that's really cool about DMR. It's organized. 3108 is Colorado. 31086 is Western. 3108 something else. 31083 is Colorado Severe Weather. 310844 is Parker Radio. 310847 is SkyHub. You can tell I use these all the time. 310, you can just go on and on.
These are only Brandmeister numbers.
Right. These are all Brandmeister numbers. They don't always equal the other DMR Plus and DMR Mark and all those. So, for example, if I want to go there's 5 hits. So if I go to the next one, you can see Colorado chat. You can see 31083, Colorado severe weather, Colorado link, Western Colorado, Colorado hotspot discussion. So you can see all these 310844s. But if I put Parker, you're not going to see this because 310844 is actually not the Parker talk group. That's actually assigned to the repeater. We're using the repeater number as our talk group because it's just virtual, right? So if I go to the repeater and look at the repeater number over here, the repeater number is, if you look at the top, underneath the blue, you'll see the number is 310844. Okay. And if you go to, and you want to listen to all, if you want to see a log of all the things it heard, you just click on this little link here, and it's going to show you all the traffic that it's heard, including anybody that's keyed up. Talk group 91 is worldwide. If you want to talk to everybody around the world, get on 91. And it's crowded. All hours of it's just nonstop. I mean, well, there's periods of silence, but I talked to everybody around the world on Talk Group 91. It's like really cool. But it gets old after a while. Because people just key up radio check. It's like, you're using digital. Why do you need a radio check? That's another thing I have. I mean, you're on digital. Anyway. Okay. That's about it. Anybody have any questions on anything? Yeah.
So just things, the wheels are turning, and in these different modes, wires X, DMR, X, you made reference to things that were really cool and things that are really frustrating. Is that really kind of the way it is with all of them? And you just really kind of have to figure out the nuances of these?
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're a fan of wires X.
I am a huge fan of Wires X, and the reason why. So the positive thing about Wires X, I told you the positive things about DMR. Time slot 1, time slot 2, it's organized. You got these different talk groups. Utah is 3149. Colorado is 3108. I know my son is in 3149. He's in Utah, right? So anyway, it's organized. Fusion. You could, 10 minutes, I did a video. 10 minutes after purchasing the cash register in HRO, 10 minutes, we walked out with a Yaesu FT70 with a guy, opened the trunk, opened the box, and I just sat there and let him do it. He put his call sign in the radio. I said, go to 448.35. In 10 minutes, he was on the air talking. He didn't program his radio, but in 10 minutes, he was on the air talking. Try to do that with a DMR radio. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not going to happen with D-Star.
So what about, are you familiar with what access we have with repeaters here locally for different modes? Are there active? I've only been using my Pi-Star hotspot.
Yeah. Pi-Star is great.
But
hotspots.
But if I want to get on an FM repeater, are you familiar with what's available for DMR or
FM repeater? It's you got to get a Brandmeister repeater
or well, I mean,
there's nothing in Colorado Springs as far as I know. I mean, I heard there's a private one somewhere.
So no DMR repeat.
You need to put one in. Let's join up with Parker and your organization and put one together, man. It's like
They had one there briefly.
they did. It was Rocky Mountain Ham, and they yanked it off of Brandmeister because they wanted to have their personal network.
So
Yeah.
there's 2 ways to get onto the internet. One way, which you're describing, is to go through a digital repeater
Yeah.
that is a Brandmeister repeater if you're using DMR,
Yeah.
and then it will link you right in. The other way is to have like a hotspot or a Pi-Star or an open spot, and then you can just set your radio to transmit at a low output. And as long as your hotspot can hear you, you will connect to the internet and you'll be able to get everybody that you want to get.
Yes.
But if you're out on the road and your hotspot is locked up at home, you may want to get onto the internet through a repeater, and then you can talk to someone in some far-flung land.
I have a question about digital identification.
Yeah.
Are all the packets identified with your call sign or?
Yes, great question. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Oops, sorry. I'm so excited. That is a great question, man. That's a great question. So how do you identify on digital? How does the repeater identify on digital? In every stream, it identifies the repeater call sign, and hang on, DMR, it doesn't. It's the digital ID, radio ID of the digital network. So in DMR, you have to identify.
But not in D-Star.
But not D-Star, not Fusion. Yeah.
Because the call sign's embedded in the other two.
So a lot of people say, hey, I'm doing ESO, I don't need to identify my call sign. No, that's not right, because there are so many transcoded networks, and you never know if it's coming out on another repeater that's on FM analog, like SKYHUBLINK. So you should identify with FCC rules. I mean, even if you're using digital. Yeah.
Does it have any like point-to-point modes, or does it require a repeater to work?
No, point-to-point, talk group 9,
Okay.
DMR radio on the same frequency talks to each other.
Okay.
The same talk group 9. So you put, some people say, okay, I would do 2 channels. Some people use talk group 99. Some people use talk group 9. You use 99, I use 9.
9.
You use 9? Okay, cool. I would do both. So program 1 channel for 9, program 1 channel for 9.
And that's simplex.
Yeah. Also, they don't get routed over the Brandmeister network. So if you keep a repeater and you just want people who's listening to hear you, but you don't want it over the whole Brandmeister network, just use 9. So always program like a zone. Okay, you have zones in DMR. I didn't even talk about that. I tend to make a zone per repeater. So if I have a PRE repeater, I make a whole zone and put all my talk groups. So I have channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4 in one zone.
Mm-hmm.
Zone 2 is Denver Radio Club. That repeater, and I go, all those talk groups. I have another zone with just analog. All my favorite analog repeaters is zone 1 or whatever. And you can name the zones whatever you want. It's just like an envelope. It's just like a folder you put in everything in. Call it whatever you want. A zone is a folder. You shove all your talk groups in. Yeah. So that's it. And if you want to stay after, I can bring up, you have hotspots, and you have, I talked about hotspot world, and I talked about repeater world, and about YSF and FCS on a hotspot. Repeaters use wires X. Okay, so if you want to get on your own personal setup, you don't have a repeater near you, you can use a hotspot. You can use an open spot or a PyStar. Or if you have a Fusion radio, you can put a wires X node. Hotspots put out how many watts? It's like milliwatts.
You got milliwatts.
It's like an FRS radio.
200-300.
Yeah, so you can put a wires X node to put out 50 watts or 20 watts. I don't recommend 50 watts because you're going to kill your radio, but I mean, you know, you put it on FM or All-Star. Remember, it's doing transmit and receive at the same time. Boom, 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 boom. So I do 5 watts. I get out about 12 miles. I can hit my wires X node with I have my antenna 30 feet, and I transmit from Lone Tree to the Denver Tech Center, no problem, with my own wires X node. I don't
You have to use some care picking the frequency
Yes.
you use to communicate with your hotspot or your PyStar. You can cause all kinds of problems, and
Yes.
we've had problems.
Yes. I've had the same frequency for 3 years. I picked one in an area where nobody's bothered, and it's fine. So, yes. In fact, what is the website for frequency allocation in Colorado? Anyway, there's a website. We'd have to find that out, but they came out with their frequencies of allocation of repeaters. They came out with hotspot recommended frequencies, and they came out with like 9 or something frequencies. So if you're wondering what frequency to put your hotspot, go to that website and pick one of the frequencies on the list.
I believe KNR has that information on his website as well,
Who?
on the club members.
Oh, yeah, good. Don't just use any old frequency. Use one of the allocated frequencies and you're not going to be in a problem. Some of the people put it in the satellite range and it messed up the satellites. You don't want to do that. So, right. Anyway, if there's any other questions, I'm going to be done.
Thank you, Bucky.